High in the jagged spine of the Montana wilderness, where winter winds howled like wounded ghosts and the forest stretched farther than a man could dream, lived Elias Crow, the mountain man folks in town whispered about but never truly knew, a man who carried more silence than words and more scars than stories he was willing to tell. He had chosen the solitude of the high country after losing the family he'd once built his whole world around, and from that day forward he trusted only his rifle, his horse, and the rhythm of the mountains that had become both his punishment and his salvation. But everything changed the morning he saw smoke curling wrong, thin, blue, not the shape of a campfire, drifting above the ridge near his cabin. Elias tightened his jaw, sensing trouble the way wild creatures sensed storms, and when he reached the clearing, his breath caught in a way it hadn't in years. A young blonde woman hung upside down from the roof beam of his porch, her hair dangling like spun gold toward the dirt, her wrists limp at her sides, her dress torn and dusted with pine needles, and carved into the wood beside her was a burned, crude word, Apache Lover, as if it were meant to shame her, condemn her, or forbid anyone from touching her. Elias's pulse hammered. He'd seen cruelty, but this was a different kind, the kind done by cowards who wanted their violence to echo. He dropped his rifle, rushed forward, and cut her down with his knife, catching her carefully as she fell into his arms. Her breathing was shallow, but she was alive, barely. He carried her inside, laid her gently on the bed, and worked fast, heating water, cleaning wounds, loosening the knots around her ankles. He found bruises around her wrists and a ragged slash at her shoulder, signs she had been dragged or worse. When she finally stirred, her voice came out cracked like old parchment, whispering one name, Tahone, and Elias didn't know it yet, but that single name would pull him into one of the most dangerous fights of his life. Slowly, through broken gasps, she told him her story. Her name was Mara, a schoolteacher from a small settlement 2 valleys over, and she had fallen in love not with an Apache warrior as the brand implied, but with a man who had been raised by a fictional mountain tribe, the Nashotah, peaceful people who kept to the high cliffs and traded rarely but fairly with settlers. Tahone had saved her once from a flood-swollen river, and kindness had grown into affection, and affection into a bond the town did not understand. The men who attacked her were not tribe members but settlers from her own community, men who feared what they did not understand and twisted love into a crime. They had dragged her to Elias's cabin because it was the farthest, loneliest place, hoping she would die before anyone found her. Elias's stomach knotted with a fury he hadn't felt since the night he buried his family beneath the frozen earth. He had sworn off the world because the world had taken everything from him, but seeing what had been done to Mara awakened something sharp and righteous inside him. He couldn't undo the past, but he could damn sure stop the present from repeating its cruelties. For 2 days he nursed her, feeding her broth, tending her wounds, keeping the fire hot even as his mind churned through possibilities. When Mara grew strong enough to sit, Elias saddled his horse, determined to find Tahone or at least warn the Nashotah tribe that settlers were stirring up violence. Mara begged to come, but Elias refused gently, too dangerous, too soon. He rode through the narrow passes, crossed icy streams, and climbed into the high ledges where hawks circled like guardians. After hours he spotted movement, a tall figure with dark braids, a bow slung across his shoulder. Tahone. The young man recognized the mountain man instantly. The Nashotah respected Elias as the silent ridge walker, a man whose grief had made him part of the land. When Elias told him what had happened, pain flickered across Tahone's usually calm features. No shout, no rage, just a deep, ancient sadness. Together they returned to the cabin. Mara ran to Tahone the moment she saw him, and Elias watched the reunion with something warm rising unexpectedly in his chest. Love, real love, looked exactly like this, 2 broken souls finding one reason to stay alive. But the danger wasn't over. The men who attacked Mara were searching, convinced she would expose them. That evening the forest rustled with heavy footsteps, and Elias knew trouble had arrived. 5 riders stormed into the clearing yelling slurs and claiming Mara belonged to them to teach her a lesson. Elias stepped out of the cabin armed only with his rifle, Tahone beside him, bow drawn. The men laughed at first, until Elias fired a warning shot that split the hat off their leader's head. "You get one chance," Elias growled, voice low as thunder. "You leave, now." But cowards seldom back down when cruelty fuels them. They charged. The clearing erupted in gunfire and arrows, a fierce but brief battle, and when it ended, the attackers scattered like wolves who'd bitten into steel instead of flesh. None dared return. The mountains went quiet again. And for the first time in years, Elias felt something he thought he'd buried: purpose. Mara and Tahone decided to start anew with the Nashota tribe, far from the town that had condemned them. Before leaving, Mara squeezed Elias's hands, tears in her eyes, thanking him not just for saving her life, but for believing she deserved to live it. Elias watched them go, sunlight catching their silhouettes as they disappeared into the trees, and he felt the weight of solitude settle again, but lighter than before, like the mountains themselves had shared his burden. Some stories, he realized, don't end, they begin anew in the hearts they change. And so he stood on his porch, staring at the horizon, with a reminder scorched on the beam above him, not as a threat anymore, but as proof that even the cruelest marks can be rewritten by courage. If you're hearing this story now, remember this: every act of kindness can change a life, every voice matters, and every listener helps stories like these spread farther. So if this tale touched you, make sure to subscribe, because more powerful stories are coming, stories of hope, courage, and the strength we all carry inside.